Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Say, we're back on YouTube. This is approximately 23 minutes into our program. Because of technical reasons, one of the things that we did prior to this YouTube, which you can also access on YouTube, is there's something, a place called 5 Dakot of Torah, and I have a video there, how to cry for the Batei Midrash. It's supposed to be Batei Mikdash, past and future. So you're joining us now, and the title of this week's program is to Taka Cry for the past and the future, because when we cry about the Churban of Beis HaMikdash, and you know that's one of the reasons that we don't have an official day of commemoration for the Holocaust. The Haredim do not subscribe to that, the day that they have actually in Chodesh Nisan, which is also inappropriate, is because all of the Churbanos are included, and you see that from the Kinnus that we say on Tisha B'Av. And therefore, everything, our personal situations, the past of Klal Yisrael and the future, all of those things, Al Eila Ani Bechia, Eini Eidi Yodei Dima. Moir Rabbi Say, let's begin, let's get started with some of the items that we're cataloging today. This past Monday, I attended the 7th Yartzeit Suda hosted by the Charnowitz family of Melech Chaim Kranz. Melech Chaim Kranz had a tragic life story where he's a father of many children. He was bounced out by his wife in Eretz Yisrael. He was very idealistic. He was bounced out, and he came to America to take care of 2 ill and elderly parents. And he came here to take care of elderly parents, and at a certain point they passed away, and he was diagnosed with a severe case of the machla, and he fought it valiantly. I don't remember for how long. Was it several years at the most, if even? And then he succumbed and he passed away. And the Chazal say, Godel Tzadikim, Misasam Yosem B'chayehim. It's interesting when you see that he was officially from the Pshutei Am, a simple person with a tragic life story. Despite his sweetness, he learned Safras, he was going for Smicha, and he was a tremendous Oyev of Eretz Yisrael. But when you see that he's Zoicha, that 7 years after he was Nifta, there's still a gathering with Siyumim, Divrei Torah, it bespeaks something about the specialness and the nobility of this person. Now, when I was there, I took along a Sefer, Hesped Godel or Mispad Godel, which was a compendium of eulogies that were said on Moran Rav Lezer Shach, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh L'Varacha. I was leafing through the pages, and I saw a rather long hesped from Rav Eliyahu Weintraub, who was from the Gedolei Bali Hashkafa and Bali Machshava, who also tragically passed away at an old age, but he tragically passed away several years ago. In his hesped on Rav Shach, he spoke about the seeming pella that the Gemara says that one person doing tshuva could tip the scale of the whole world in terms of tshuva. And that's very, very hard to understand. And the way he explained it is that because of Arvus, because all Jews are connected with each other, so therefore it comes out that when that when a person does tshuva, so the part of him that's connected with everybody else disperses a fraction of that tshuva to all the other members of the organization. That means we're all part of one big family. We have our personal bank accounts, and then there's another spiritual bank account that we also have, where we're all pooled together in one giant account. And therefore, any deposit in that account impacts positively, and it's possible that any chas v'sholem negative situation would have the opposite effect. I've already made the bracha before the program L'chaim Tov L'sholom. So therefore, the chiddush of Rabbi Weintraub is that there's a tremendous arvus, a tremendous connection, and that when we do a good deed, it's not in a vacuum, but the extent of the good deed is it literally impacts in a fractional way on each and every member of Klal Yisrael. This brought to mind a conversation that I had with my late Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Chaim Leib Epstein, Zecher Tzadik V'Kodesh L'Vracha. Many years ago, I visited him in Camp Torah Chesed during the summer. I spoke to him about the fact that I was starting a shul. At the time, I was given the opportunity to have a shul, Mevakshei Hashem, in Flatbush, a very small minyan. And when we started out, we were trying very much to focus on not talking, on tefillah b'kavana, etc., and pirush of tefillah. And Rav Epstein told me something very interesting. He said he was once in the car with a kollel person and his wife, and he was discussing this subject. And he asked the person, the kollel person, when we say in the Birchas HaTorah, V'harevno Hashem Elokeinu, what does it mean, V'harevno? And the kollel young man at Talmud Chacham said, V'harevno is a lashon of arvus, that we're all connected. Rav Chaim said he didn't want to embarrass him in front of his wife. But it means that we pray to Hashem that the Torah should be sweet to us, that we should want to seek us its sweetness. That's just an aside, but I'm thinking now that harbe mokum, harbe ponim laTorah, and it could be that there was something to what that person said, even though at a manifest level he was wrong, but on a deeper spiritual level, perhaps he was right. Perhaps the Chazal chose this word. It didn't say v'hamtik lanu, make mesikos, it said v'harevno Hashem Elokeinu, make sweet for us, as Divrei says, b'finu u'v'fiyah is called amcha beis Yisrael. Listen to the pasuk, listen to the imba, the bracha. So it could be that it's a double entendre, that it has several meanings. Meaning you should make it sweet. You should make it sweet, and the sweetness should be in part not only for you, but through your learning Torah, you impact on everybody else. So the sweetness that you experience through arvus, you communicate, you make a deposit in the family bank account of Klal Yisrael, the pool trust of Klal Yisrael. So really, V'harevna conveys two things. It conveys sweetness, and equally important, and in a certain way, maybe even more important, the arvus, that when we do something good, it impacts on everyone. Now, I was saying this for many months on this program, that when we do something, we make a donation, we speak out, we write a letter to the editor, we speak to a rabbi, we speak to a politician, we phone up the office, that by doing this, we have a chelik. We have a chelik in what's in spiritual accomplishment. We all share in it. And this seems to be an ancillary. This seems to be a proof to my hypothesis that we're all connected together. And this gives us a new insight into Noitel Schar Keneged Kulam. When we're doing something, since we have arvus, since we're automatically connected, so how does it be Noitel Schar Keneged Kulam? It's to a certain extent at that point, I am viewed not as merely as an individual, but I am viewed in my du partsufim, in the two-facedness. I'm now using the face of myself as a member of the collective tzibur. And therefore, when I do this mitzvah, Ma'asim Tovim, it's like everybody is doing it, but I'm not the schar. I might be mezakeh them with a fractional amount, but I get the overwhelming schar as the one who's doing this in the name as a shliach tzibur, as a shliach tzibur of the collective community. Because you know that for something which is considered a mitzvah and something that somebody would want, we can be mezakeh the person, even shalei b'fanov, shalei b'rishusai, and b'shalei b'yidiyasai, without his knowledge, not in front of him. In certain cases, for instance, there's a chazaka that you can use a person's talus or something like that, because a person is nicha, he's willing, he's desirous that we should do a mitzvah with his object, either for the purity, even if he's not getting any schar, or certainly if he realizes he's going to get some schar. So we understand this. So it's the same thing. Even if the person doesn't know on his spiritual soul source, he or she wants the other person to do the mitzvah. Chaim. Now let's go a step deeper. Let's go a step further, not necessarily deeper. An ancillary to this, I was driving in my car this week and I pulled out an old cassette tape from Irgun Shiri Torah, and it seems to me that it was a compendium of certain shiurim by Rav Avram Shor Shlita. He was talking about Mesis and Mediach, and then I don't know if he quoted another pasuk or he quoted a pasuk from Mesis and Mediach, but he quoted a pasuk that said both am and individual. And he was talking, I remember he said he was talking on Chaf Aleph Av, which is Bein Azmanim, intercessions. And yet he was talking to a Beis Medrash of Yeshiva Bachrim and complimenting them that they were learning as if it was in the middle of Chodesh Iyar, even though it was Bein Azmanim. The part that interests us here is that he said that when they're learning, they are mizakeh everybody. And he used terminologies that I theoretically used, but hearing it from Rav Avram Shor, a tremendous Talmid Chacham, was a big chizik to me. He said, who knows how many people are healed from being sick, how many zuchusim they are for Klal Yisrael, because of the Torah that you're learning and learning with the Geschmack. So once again, you see this concept of Aharevno, sweetness and arvus, they're actually interconnected. And therefore we should understand when the Gemara says that a person can do tshuva and a ma'aser mitzvah, and he could sway the whole world litzad zchus. So we understand this on a deeper level, and this should give us a chizik that no matter how inconsequential we feel we are, if we suffer from low self-esteem, we have to understand that we're an ois in the Sefer Torah, a Sefer Torah that's missing an ois, a letter, is puzzle. And the whole Sefer Torah with all the Gedolei Yisrael, all the Tamid Chacham, all the big Bali Chesed, all the big Bali Avodah, they can't do it. It's not a complete community, a complete achdus, if I don't make my contribution. So this is a big chizik. Now, I want to launch or emphasize, underline a theme that I've been saying, and I said it on the it's not on the YouTube, but it's on the introduction to the program tonight. We have to understand the Aval Ashemim Anachnu that the brothers said when they saw that Shimon was being imprisoned, and they said Aval Hashem Anachnu. The Aval Hashemim Anachnu rings a clarion call. Whatever happens, we have a chelik in making it happen. Basically, we have to understand there couldn't be that in a densely populated Orthodox Jewish community like Lakewood, that there should be a fundraiser there. I spoke about this last week. A fundraiser for Orthodox, Haredi, even politicians who are brazenly supporting all kinds of schmutz. It couldn't happen if we were conducting ourselves properly with regard to the schmutz. This is a slice of salami technique. It's slice by slice. It started 40 years ago, in the late 60s, almost 50 years ago, with what's called Stonewall, with the revolution and the push, and many of the people who were doing that were irreligious Jews, social engineers, because you know the famous story. The Chazal tell us that Rabbi Akiva and his comrades, the Gedolei Yisrael, were walking and they saw the daughter of Nakdiman Ben Gurion, the Bill Gates of his time. She was picking through the Gololim, through the elimination of the animals, to see if there was a piece of food that, could you imagine, it's horrific, that wasn't digested, that she could clean off and eat. And Rabbi Akiva said, Klal Yisrael, when they're high, they're the highest of the high. And when they're low, they sink so low. So we have to understand, from the lowless, we understand why, to a certain extent, the anti-Semitic tropes that are thrown at us, that are utilized against us, the Jews, the media, the Jews in Hollywood, the Jews with the banking, etc., because it's two faces of the same coin. Either the Jews are being spiritual leaders, or if they move away in Tazveni Yom Yamayim Azveka, if you move away from God one day, he moves away from you too. So then that spiritual potential becomes anti-spiritual, whether it manifests itself in communism or a media that is out of control, or art and entertainment, which is pornographic, and so on and so forth, literature, and so on and so forth. We have to understand this. We have to understand, just like we see in the media, Israel is such a tiny country. How much bigger is it than New Jersey or whatever it is? And yet, Israel is such an outsized segment of international news on a daily basis surrounds Israel. This too is a message to us, but not for the political, the fights with the Arabs, this and that. It's to show us that once again we are the tail that wags the dog, and what we do has profound spiritual significance and shakes up all of the worlds. Chazal tell us on a pasuk, Zer Mosem, Zer Masusim, that the Gentile cannot impurify, doesn't have the tumah that we have. But our tumah, our spiritual tumah, it shakes up all of the worlds. And we have to understand that. So why is the drag queen hours? Why are there schmutz in the youth libraries? Why does Levovitz, Captain Queer, get hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Jewish Federation and from other misguided Jews, to put it mildly, to promote self-esteem and affirmation for young people based on one of the strongest Torah prohibitions, something that was called deviance, perversion, sodomy for thousands of years, even by the Gentiles and the pagans? Why? And the answer is, it's because of us. אבל השם אנחנו. Wherever a voice site. This week's Jewish Press has an extremely important article, which I would like to skim through with you. It's mamish, its garbage is coming to New York and around the country. It's on page 67. Unfortunately, it's buried. It's the column that I referred to many weeks, dispatch from the Culture War Front. It's kedai to buy the Jewish Press just for this. Assisted suicide has become legal today, August the 1st. Now, what does this mean? The law has no safeguards. Any terminal ill person, even one with dementia, can potentially be killed under this law, which explicitly allows workers in a dementia care home to sign a document stating that a patient wishes to die. You understand? The worker, a third party, can say he knows that the demented person wanted to die. There are no exceptions for depressed people or any obligation to inform the family. Rabboisai, wake up. No verification of the patient's or witness's signature is required either. Readers who know someone terminally ill should be vigilant to ensure he or she doesn't sign a form requesting drugs to die. Patients who have signed such a form should receive around-the-clock visitors to make sure that they never take drugs. Some people wish to die because their spirits are down and see no reason to live. A simple visit to a lonely patient can sometimes lift his or her spirits and prevent the patient from taking drugs to end his or her life. Readers who know of such a doctor who prescribes this should inform as many people as possible to avoid using this type of doctor. Unfortunately, some doctors and activists believe in assisted suicide as an ideology, and they will do anything to convince the ill patient to sign a form to receive these life-ending drugs. You have to be vigilant. You shouldn't let any patients, mishpacha, etc., friends, speak to doctors without you being present. If a patient needs expensive medication to heal him or her, but insurance won't pay for it, ask the insurance company on the record, meaning in a letter, if it will pay for the fatal drugs. If it says yes, threatening to publicize that reply might be the only way to get it to pay for the medication. It means if it says no, let's say they don't, so now you have something in writing, so you can threaten them, we're going to publicize that you're literally killing my family member, the patient. You're giving them a death sentence. One final point. The assisted suicide bill only passed by one vote in each chamber of New Jersey, and many members who represented Jewish communities voted for it. For not sufficiently lobbying our representatives to oppose this bill, we bear some responsibility for the deaths, God forbid, of people who kill themselves with life-ending drugs provided to them under this law. You understand what I'm telling you? This goes along with the positive aspect of Arvus, how sweet it is to be part of a community, and that people could donate into the community, into the communal bank account, and we could all gain from it. But when somebody does something wrong, Hashem made it abundantly clear, just like in the 1970s, abortion became legal by one vote in New York State. And the representatives of Borough Park, Williamsburg, etc., voted the wrong way. Now we see history repeating itself 50 years later with assisted suicide. Rabboisai, wake up and smell the coffee. Gewalt, gewalt. Gewalt, gewalt. I don't understand something. Why can't we have Tehillim rallies? Why can't people be told, just like they are told to say Tehillim at the end of davening for Achenu Beis Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael that are facing, with this we understand. Why don't we understand Gadol HaMachtia Yosem and Hargai, that killing somebody is worse than bringing him into her licentiousness? Why aren't there Tehillim rallies? Why can't even that the Chacham and the Rabbanim they can't do? The answer is they're verstoppt. The tzinoris, the pipes are stuffed. Like when you have to call Roto-Rooter, the spiritual pipes are stuffed. We have become so accommodationist that you go to the dinners, and Chuck Schumer for years could vote for all the Schwartz and commandeer the microphones with the Me'etzes Gedolei HaTorah sitting there. And he had to have his say, he's Shomer Yisrael. And all of this stuff, all of the years of sending our students to graduating classes to Washington, D.C., to post with pictures at the Capitol with the local congressmen or senators who vote for the Schmutz. All of this garbage has taken away the siyata d'shmaya that even Gedolei Yisrael can't see. Hashoiched yava, this is a form of spiritual bribery. Hashoiched yava einei chachamim, it makes us blind. The Yisalef, it falsifies the words of tzaddikim and the righteous. We see this happening, Rabbi Sai. Last week was Pinchas. Everybody, kulanu ke Pinchas. Everybody has to be on Pinchas. We have to be the tails that wag the dog when it comes to these things. We have to ask our Rabbanim why. There's a synagogue, a shul, modern ortho, versteht sich, terribly, horrifically modern ortho. It's in Washington Heights, very near to YU. It's called Mount Sinai Jewish Center. They've done all kinds of garbage. This week, they have a guy, a former yeshiva student, Eli Friedman, who's out and about as an active Mishkav Zocha. He's going to be speaking after davening at their Kiddush or whatever about being gay and Orthodox. And then he'll speak again at Shalosh Udis and he'll answer questions from the audience. This is the garbage. This is how they introduce the further decline. This has to be associated. It can't even be done during the week. It has to be done on Shabbos Kodesh, B'chatzos Kodshai, in the Beis Hamikdash Ma'at, in the 3 weeks. Do you see it? Does it upset you? Does it hurt you? Does it frustrate you? Is it kedai in your personal davening when you say Tehillim? Is it kedai to say Ravonu Shalom? Yodeinu le'shafchos hadam hazeh. We're not responsible. It's against our will that there's such a chilul Hashem. Rabbi say, wake up. Wake up. This is what we're talking about. You don't hear the hashkafa anywhere else. There's a communality of Klal Yisrael. It works l'toiv and l'mutav. Chas v'sholem, it works for kert. Do you know, I was told by the person who brought this to my attention, Reb Ari, that Zochel l'toiv, I was told that very near this synagogue is the synagogue. Synagogue is spelled S-I-N. It's a base sin. Rav Herschel Schachter, the wanted Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva University, lives there. And the person who is a loichem, Rav Avram Gordimer, lives there, within blocks of the shul. I want to tell you a mice which I said here a number of weeks ago. Chaim Tevim L'Shalom, which have refuahs in Yeshuas. Please have me among Yehuda ben Masha for siyata d'shmaya in refuahs and in financial Yeshuas, please. Rabbi Sai, there was once a car accident with a boy with a bicycle was hit on FDR Drive. He was laying in the street, and a yarmulke was strewn near to him. They ran up to Rav Moshe and they said, "Please be mispal, a Jewish boy has been hit in a bicycle. He's outside." Rav Moshe says, "How do you know?" He said, "There's a yarmulke lying right next to him on the bike." Rav Moshe said, "He's not a Jew. I don't have to be mispal per se. He's not a Jew. Or I don't have to be mispal to him like I would for a Jew. He's not a Jew." So they asked Rav Moshe, "How do you know this? You have Ruach HaKodesh?" Rav Moshe said, "It can't be that mamish literally in the Dalet Ames, directly close, juxtaposed geographically, location-wise, to what I put in all my koiches and Torah, tens and tens of hours a day, and in my house, that an umglik, such a tragedy, can occur right outside of my bailiwick, right outside my window. I knew it can't be." Now, listen, in the east side, as I say, that a number of years ago, they were making Eshel Shabbatons in the 6th Street Synagogue, I think it's called, or the Stanton Street Synagogue, or both of them, and the Rabbanim, including with David Feinstein and other Chashuvim in the east side, so you see something could happen. Is it a question of how close it is to the Tzaddik or Gadol? The point is, I'm not here to criticize Rabbi Avram Gordimer, who's a Tzaddik, and he makes a Kiddush Hashem in the secular media and all over. He's constantly writing against the immorality. Nevertheless, by Rav Avram Gordimer, I would feel it Zula Umazu. The same way the same way I explained last week, that in Lakewood and in all these religious places, that's where they're making the Blue Claw Stadium Gay Pride Night. That's where they're making the youth library thing. That's where they're making the fundraiser. The Tumah is like the Chet HaEgel, came about right after the biggest Hisgalus revelation of Torah. Similarly, Hashem gives the Sitra Acher equal time on a certain level. So we have various different hashkafic rules of the way things work. Reb Moshe teaches us one thing, that in a certain bailiwick, in a certain proximity of a tzaddik, a bad thing is not going to happen. On the other hand, the evil is attracted to where the tzaddikim, the b'nei Torah, the balei chasadim, the ruchnius is. That's with Rabbi Gordimer. With Rabbi Schachter, with all due respect, I think that Rabbi Schachter, I respectfully petition him, if anybody is listening from Washington Heights or from YU who can go over and ask them, it's happening tomorrow, Shabbos, it's happening literally the next 2 days. At least there should be a protest. At least the Rosh Hashivas of YU should make a statement. This is happening in your bailiwick. The fact that they don't do it in Lakewood is an indictment of Lakewood, and the fact they don't do it in Washington Heights is an indictment in Washington Heights. And I say this with sadness. I say this with sadness. The Young Israel of Fort Lee is experiencing the mushchasization of orthodoxy. This coming Monday, Yankee Horowitz, on his new crusade and mission to speak and teach sensitivity to the Mishkavei Zohar, will be speaking on that subject at the Young Israel of Fort Lee. This is, again, the camel's nose into the tent. They have to do it. They can't do it in a community center. It's got to be under the title of Young Israel. Where are the leading rabbis of the Young Israel movement? Do they appreciate this? Do they have something to say about this? Recently, one of the leaders of the Jewish Values Coalition, Torah, or whatever it's called, Dov Fish, Rabbi Dov Fish, a brilliant lawyer, wrote an op-ed piece in the Jewish press to separate himself from the RCA, the Rabbinical Council of America, that he says it's no longer all the rabbis who make decisions, but a few people make left-wing decisions. So here it happens to be a left-wing Young Israel is hosting a Haredi, a guy who wears a shtaimel on Shabbos, Yankee Horowitz. And he's going to speak, he's going to preach to people, and they're going to, all these modern Orthodox are going to come and say, see, we have to be more sensitive. They're going to say, oh, we're going to feel a guilt trip, we're not sensitive enough, and all of this is posturing. And I've said before, so what do you want, Levin? What do you want? What should they do? These people should disappear. This is a big, Levin, I myself have said this is a bigger challenge now than in previous generations, because it's the last gasp of Amalek, and Amalek is Lashon Mikri Keri Mishkav Zocha. So what do you want us to do? The answer is deal with them on a one-on-one basis. Deal with them on hotlines. Deal with them below the radar. Do not make meetings for them. Do not promote them. Do not talk about their pride and their self-esteem. Do not talk about having compassion to them when people can't delineate between compassion on the person and becoming desensitized to the act and to the culture. Mushchasovitz gave recently a speech in Israel in which he tells the story of a Rosh Yeshiva. I referred to this in the opening, my opening remarks. A Rosh Yeshiva in Lakewood of a small yeshiva, we're not talking Beis Medrash Gavoa, who was helping a child, a Talmud, a teen who did not want to go through conversion, quote unquote, therapy. In other words, really reparative therapy. And he was telling the parents, basically, according to Mushchasovitz, who was speaking about this Bechatzos Kodesh at a rally of Mushchasim in Eretz Yisrael, who were cheering him, that the Rosh Yeshiva, the big cut bench, is telling the parents, you want to have a frum person who's a Ben Torah, if you're going to try to change his gayachs, and you're going to lose him. In other words, they're beating us, they're bludgeoning us, they're blackmailing us over the head. We can't do it because they're going to commit suicide. What about the Gemara that says, when a guy said the doctor supported him, if he doesn't see this woman outside his house, if he doesn't hear her voice or see her through the window, and there's a machlokes in the Gemara, it's even by a pnuya, a person who technically can marry. She's a single girl. And the Gemara basically says we do not accommodate the licentious drive. We say he can die if he has to. But now, Yankee Horowitz and the rabbinic advisor told him it's sakonis nefashis. So you can do everything, have public meetings, be machazik the homosexuals, their families, everything else. Zu Torah, this is Torah. I wanted to single out also in the final moments, I want to single out Reb Chaim Deutsch. I have a push me, pull you relationship with Chaim Deutsch. He's a city councilman. He's excellent. He works hard. He's a good soul. He thinks that I'm misguided because he understands me, but he thinks I'm too extreme. And he sent me from January 2019, this is the second time he sent it to me, an article from the Mishkav Zohar, Gay City News, that catalogs over the years how he's been anti the movement. And he deserves credit for this. But you know what this means, Reb Chaim, Ziskait, and I'm not chepping you. I know how hard it is to be a politician today and to tread the narrow line that you're trying to do. But the fact of the matter is that you've also voted for various pieces of schmutz. So while you deserve credit for the good things you've done, but remember, let's say you have a child in your neighborhood, Reb Chaim, who comes to you for counseling and he's a drug addict, and this comes to you 14 times and you don't give him a drug. But on the 15th time, you give him a drug. So you can get credit for the 14 times you didn't give a drug. But for the 15th time, for the time you give a drug, you have to be held accountable. So you're doing your job and I'm doing my job. I want to say as follows. There's the Museum of Schmutz ads that you were involved with in the past on the buses. And we're pleading with you, Reb Chaim, do this for Klal Yisrael. The Museum of Schmutz ads, please, I appeal to you. Please, I beg you. Get them out of the subways. They're offending and hurting and stealing the innocence of so many of our Yidden. Finally, the Toronto Rabbeim put out a letter signed by many Rabbonim. There's some kind of a Miskav Zacha assault there and they're doing it. We don't see such letters in Lakewood. We haven't seen them in Brooklyn, but at least we're seeing them. Stay around, my friend. Stay around. Stay around, my friend. We haven't seen them in Brooklyn, but it's a proof to what we're saying. And at least here, belatedly, the Rabbanim are speaking out something. We have to see this happen in Brooklyn as well. In the final moments, I just want to say as follows. The group, Rabbi Tau, started a group. He's a man of 81. He's leader of Chardalim, Charedi Datim Leumiyim, to the right of the Datim Leumiyim. He's felt that it's important enough to start a political party. In the Jewish press this week, they reported that the political, or in the Havadir rather, they reported one of these papers in Havadir that Noam is going to get 1/3 of 1% of the vote. They're not going to even qualify. And there's talk of them getting together with Feiglin's group, Zehut. But this is a steer to everything that Rabbi Tau stands for, because Feiglin allowed a lesbian, an open lesbian, to run on his thing, and he's taking a libertarian view towards gayachs. He's putting his own political future on top of Torah Hashem. He's Muksa Machmas Miyas, and I wish somebody would tell Rabbi Tau, how could you even consider going with him? He stands in opposition. I don't care if he's right-wing on Israel and politics, etc., etc. He loses all credibility, aside from the fact he wants to legalize marijuana. So you see, even here, there's a certain blindness that Rabbi Tau or his people don't realize. Now, is it a wasted vote for Rabbi Tau because he's not going to hit the threshold? Absolutely not. The future and the Hatzalah of Klal Yisrael, if you believe in voting, I'm not talking about the Satmar or Eidus Acharei Shita, but if you believe in voting, rather than vote for Aguda and Shas and everything else, it would be gewaldig to vote for Rabbi Tau because they are putting the Amalek thing first. My advice is, this is Rabbi Yehuda Levin. Have a good Woche, good Tamid. Help me out on the Chesed Fund, Kedusha Morality Fund, or Morality Kedusha Fund. I think it's 8055. Please, I need your help. We should be Zeicha to see the Binyan Beis HaMikdash B'Korov. Thank you.